Hey guys, it's Jenna. Welcome back to my channel today. In today's video, I'm going to be doing a Too Faced review. This is the new Cinnamon Swirl Eyeshadow palette, and this is their Fall 2021 palette that they have come out for this year. Now, they always put out a palette like this year over year in the fall time, and it's typically very fall inspired. There's been previous ones that have had pumpkin themes. This is one that has a cinnamon theme, and it's adorable. So today's video, we're going to be talking about the review, the swatches, if I think this palette is worth it, as well as how I achieved this really easy look today, which is so gorgeous for fall. This palette is super pretty and there's lots to talk about, so let's get started. Talk about the outer packaging of this palette. This is the exact same tin packaging that Too Faced puts out with this type of release every single year. I would argue that this is always their better palette compared to holiday releases. I don't know what it is, but the holiday releases tend to be just a little bit hit or miss quality-wise. So every time holiday comes around, I recommend getting a palette like this for someone that's a Too Faced lover versus their holiday releases. This packaging style is very protective and it's very unique to Too Faced as well. I don't know if I have another brand that comes to mind that does this type of tin packaging. Like right off the bat, I'm trying to think of it, but this is very unique to Too Faced, and I have found in my experience that the tin packaging is basically the best chance at getting their best quality formula. This palette is bulk made in the US and assembled in the Dominican Republic, according to Too Faced. There are 18 shadows in here. This is limited edition. Now, I'm just gonna zoom in on the packaging here because it is so cute. It also shows 3 little cinnamon buns, which, you guys, I don't know if I've ever told you this, but I'm gluten-free, not by choice. I wish. It's definitely not by choice. So this cinnamon roll is very nostalgic for me because I so badly want a cinnamon roll. So if anybody has a gluten-free cinnamon roll recipe, drop it down below in the comments because that would make me very happy. But when you open up the palette here, whoop, it snaps. So just be careful when you one-hand this palette. When you open up the palette, you'll see this gorgeous color story. It's very warm-toned. It's very fall-themed. It's so pretty, and I really do like the pops of those pinky purples in the bottom row. It just adds a little bit more versatility to this palette. Otherwise, I personally think that this would be quite monochromatic, which it definitely is, I would say, but adding those pops of purple does help to increase the amount of looks that you can get. Now, this also has a really nice mirror. It's the size of the lid, basically, and it's got one of those cute little cinnamon buns on the side there. So Too Faced is also known for having palettes that smell. They have like a synthetic fragrance, typically the same smell as the theme of the palette for that year. This one does smell like cinnamon, but it's not as pungent as some of the other ones have been in the past. When you do open up some of the palettes that they've done, it's just like a punch in the face of synthetic fragrance, but this is definitely more subtle. It's not like I'm sticking my nose right in here and then I can smell it. But when I was working with the shadows earlier, I didn't really smell it too much or anything. It certainly doesn't waft off of the eyelid all day where you can smell it. So if you are scent aversive, do note that there is for sure a smell, but it's more on the subtle side this year. Now, this palette launched already in Ulta stores and online for Americans. It is $49 American dollars. It's also on Too Faced's website as well for the same price. Sephora will eventually get this, but they do take a little while. It always launches first with Ulta and their website. Unfortunately, you cannot get it on the Too Faced Cosmetics Canadian site yet. This is one that I had to ship to my American address, and then I had to get it couriered up. So basically, I'm very committed to getting this review up for you guys. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to do it. It's very interesting because the beauty community as a whole has a very interesting vibe against these Too Faced palettes. I have noticed that for people that are super hardcore into beauty, I don't know, it's like they're bored of the Too Faced launches year over year, and rightfully so. I understand that, you know, I'm also in the beauty space, of course, being a creator. We are inundated with launches, and for me personally, if you are not used to that, like if you're not super obsessed with makeup like myself, you're not going to necessarily see all the launches, A, and then B, you're not going to be as overwhelmed, and therefore, If you're into the Too Faced palettes, you're still going to be super excited for launches like this, especially if you have this type of preference when it comes to eyeshadow. One thing to note always is that Too Faced is still doing amazing when it comes to sales in Sephora, in Ulta. There are lots of people that are still obsessed with these palettes. So that's why I figured I would pick it up, because even though it's not like mainstream, right in your face necessarily with the beauty community here on YouTube, people still love these and they're best-selling products for a reason. So the sales just show us that these types of launches are not necessarily boring to a lot of people. A lot of people are still very excited for them, which is why the brand still does them, right? So let me know your thoughts down below. Are you someone that's kind of over the Too Faced launches, or are you someone that looks forward to them? Because this is definitely a beautiful palette, and Too Faced does make a really nice, easy to use eyeshadow formula. Now let's get into the look today. Oh my goodness, this has been very fun to play with today. The first shade I went in with was Doughboy, and this one went all over the lid super well. This shade is nearly my skin color, so it's blending in really nice. I wouldn't say that it's patchy or anything, it just seems to glide over the lid. This is one that doesn't have a ton of fallout or anything, and it's really, really soft. When you do pick it up out of the pan, however, you're going to get a little bit of some kick up because it is quite loose when you actually disturb it from the pan itself. The next shade I went all over the lid with was Frost These Buns, or Frost Those Buns. So cute. Too Faced does have some very interesting names of shades, and this one's just like flat out adorable, like all around. This is a really beautiful shimmer shade. It's incredibly soft. It almost feels like suede. It's just so soft and plush. It does have quite a bit of pigment underneath it. And the finger application that I'm doing here is basically my way of trying to get the most pigment impact. You can still absolutely apply shades like this with a brush, but just note it's going to be a little bit more muted. So that's what I wanted to avoid, is to just have a little bit more of that pigment pop, and this applied really well as well. Next I went in with the matte. This is See Me Rollin'. Oh, it reminds me of that song. They see me rollin'. Like, I feel like it's just in my head. Millennial problems, all right? So this is the shade right here. This is where I smoked out the outer edge of the lid, and this also, very easy to blend. Too Faced makes some really, really nice mattes. Definitely their best mattes that they've done. It's very reminiscent of the other tin palettes that they come out with that do have their best formulations. In the past, with holiday releases, especially in like cardboard packaging, I don't know if that's like a rule of thumb or something, but as soon as it's cardboard packaging, if they cut corners here, where else did they cut corners? So I'm a little bit skeptical when I see that, but then when I test them, it's almost like my theory is correct. They're always just a little stiffer and a little bit harder to work with, but this is one that is so, so nice, very easy to blend out, easy to build up. I actually did 2 layers to get this type of pigment because I went very light-handed in the pan, knowing it was a deep shade. Next, I wanted to go in with one of the pink kind of shimmer shades. Now, when I opened this up, I accidentally jabbed my nail in this shade here, but this is called Sticky Fingers. This is one that I would 100% recommend you do apply with a very dense brush or your fingertip, or spray a brush so you can get the maximum pigment, because this one is quite glittery. And basically, if you do pick it up with a dry, like fluffy brush that doesn't have any density to it, it's really not going to translate on the lid. It's just incredibly light. And this shade added a little bit of a pinky purple sparkle that I was after. I really think that this is a very easy palette to do a very monochromatic look with, and rightfully so. These shades are very warm. There's the really typical browns that a lot of people love to use. Adding a little bit of that pink, it's a very complementary shade that adds a little bit of dimension to your look. Then I proceeded with my liner, my mascara, everything was done, and then I looked at my look and I was like, something is missing. I just want a little bit more brightness in the center of the lid. So what I did was I actually picked up Gooey Goodness, which is on the bottom row, and it's kind of like a white shimmery, like an off cream color shimmer. And this too is one that I think putting your fingertip right in there will allow for the most opacity for this and the most shine coming through. Alternatively, you can spray a brush, that's totally fine, but do know that fluffier brushes will have a hard time with this pigment translating onto the lid. Overall, that little white added just just enough dimension where it looks kind of like there's more light in the center there, and that's what I was after. So I'm very, very happy with this look, and I personally think that this is something that so many people are going to be very comfortable with wearing and with using. You don't need skill to make this palette look really, really nice, and I think that's why their formulation is still extremely best-selling. It's not super expensive like the ultra luxurious brands, and it's not like drugstore pricing. It's right there where you have a touch of luxury, but you're not going to break the bank. So I really think this is a lovely palette. I actually paired it with this lip today. It's the lip cushion from M Cosmetics in Venetian Rose. I just think it's really nice and warm and, you know, fall-esque. I will definitely test the rest of the shades and give you guys an update, but I do think that if you are a fan of these palettes, you will not be disappointed with this one. Do know that they do make similar palettes year over year. So they have very similar themes like toasty and spicy and pumpkin and whatever, right? If you have the other releases that in previous years, unless you are a super fan of the Too Faced formula and this is like your treat to yourself every year, if you're thinking about getting this palette because it's like so wildly different from the others, I actually don't think it's that different. So if you have other ones, you don't necessarily need it. But if you are a big fan of this brand and this is something that you look forward to, you're not going to be disappointed because it's very well performing so far. To finish off the look, I just used a pencil brush and went in with the See Me Rollin' shade kind of underneath to add a little bit of smokiness. And that's how I completed the look. So I don't know, I really like it. I think it's very fall vibes. Here are the beautiful swatches as well of this palette. You can see there's quite a few shades to choose from. I'm really happy to have reviewed this palette for you guys today. I will definitely do an update when every single shade has been tested. Do let me know down below if this is on your wish list or not, or if this is a release you're going to skip on. Until my next one, guys, take care and stay safe. Bye, guys!